Greetings everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bite Size History on History with Audrey D. In today's lesson, we are going to be taking a look at some of the creation myths from ancient China. Now, if my voice sounds a little scratchy today, it's because I am still recovering a bit from some laryngitis, but we are going to power through so I can get some more episodes done. If you're enjoying this channel so far, please make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. And if you would like to support this channel further, you can do so through the links in my bio as well as the description below. Now let's go ahead and get into our lesson on Chinese creation myths from ancient China. Before emperors claimed heaven's favor, people were creating myths about the heaven and the earth and how they came to exist at all. And in Chinese tradition, that story is not just one story. Instead, we find a layered mythic world. Later texts, evolving traditions, regional variations, and powerful figures like Pangu and Nuwa. These myths are not history in the modern sense. They are explanations of order, balance, humanity, and repair. And that makes them one of the best windows into how early Chinese cultures imagined the structure of the world. One of the primary things that we should make sure that we are understanding about Chinese creation mythology is that it doesn't function like a single fixed canonical text. There is no one universally agreed master version that all traditions followed from the beginning. Instead, stories about creation, humanity, and cosmic order, and divine figures developed across time and appear in different literary and religious contexts. Which is why in this lesson, we're not looking for one specific story, but really trying to understand how each individual story weaves together into China's ancient tapestry. We're looking at a tradition of stories that reveal recurring themes: order from chaos, the connection between heaven and earth, the vulnerability of the world, and the role of divine or semi-divine beings in making and repairing it. One of the best known later Chinese creation stories begins in chaos, often imagined as something like a cosmic egg. Inside that egg grows Pangu, a giant being who eventually separates heaven and earth. In later retellings, the lighter, clearer elements rise to become heaven, while the heavier, denser elements sink to become earth. Pangu holds them apart, and after his death, his body becomes parts of the natural world. Now, this myth does several things at once. It explains the separation of sky and earth. It turns the body of a primordial being into the physical structure of the world. And it presents creation not as instant perfection, but as an act of differentiation. Chaos becoming ordered space, reflecting a deep concern with how order emerges. And that concern fits much later Chinese thought as well, from political theory to cosmology. Pán Gǔ helps explain the structure of the world, while Nuwa helps explain the creation and preservation of humanity. Britannica identifies Nuwa, or Nuwa, as an important figure in Chinese mythology, associated with marriage norms and early cultural order. And broader Chinese mythic traditions connect her strongly with the creation of human beings and the repair of the heavens. In many versions of the story, Nuwa molds human beings from yellow earth or clay. In some variants, she carefully forms certain people by hand and creates others more quickly by dragging a cord through mud. Later interpretations have often read this as an explanation for social hierarchy, though that interpretation should be handled carefully because the exact meaning varies by version. This part of the myth is powerful because it links humanity directly to Earth itself. Humans are not separate from the material world. They're shaped from it. Another of Nua's most famous roles is not creation, but repair. In later mythic tradition, after a cosmic catastrophe damages the heavens, Nua patches the sky using 5 colored stones and restores stability to the world. Some versions connect this catastrophe to a divine conflict that disrupted cosmic order. This is one of the most beautiful and important themes of Chinese myth. The world is not only created, it's maintained. That idea matters historically because it resonates with later Chinese views of rulership and order. The good ruler is not just a conqueror. The good ruler restores balance. He repairs what's broken. In that sense, myth and political thought often echo one another. Nua's story also introduces a deeply human idea. Creation alone is not enough. A world worth living in must sometimes be fixed. Oftentimes, what we are looking for when we're researching mythology while studying history is to better understand what these cultures found meaningful. Chinese mythology shows concern with balance, instability, earth and sky, the making of human society, and the need to restore order after disaster. Those aren't random themes. They connect to long-term Chinese concerns about harmony, legitimacy, nature, and cosmic order. And these myths also help us avoid a mistake that often appears in simplified history. The idea that Chinese civilization was purely practical, bureaucratic, or philosophical. In reality, it also had rich mythic traditions, symbolic worlds, and sacred narratives. However, because these myths survive through later texts and evolving traditions, historians also have to be careful. The stories of Pangu and Nua were not frozen at one moment and transmitted unchanged forever. They developed over time, and some of the best-known versions are preserved in later literary or religious contexts, rather than in one ancient founding source. This doesn't make them less important. It actually makes them more interesting, because mythology itself has a history. The stories will change, cultures may reinterpret them, but every retelling tells us something not only about the myth, but about the people preserving it. When we study stories about Pangu and Nua, we're not just looking at what the stories say, but we're trying to better understand the cultures that help them develop. Now, I hope you enjoyed this lesson and our brief dip into the legends and myths of ancient China, specifically those creation myths. In our next lesson, we are going to be looking at how dragons influenced Chinese culture. If you are enjoying these lessons and this channel so far, please make sure you are hitting that like and subscribe button, and you can support this channel further through the links in my bio as well as the description below. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you in our next lesson.